Did you know that Python functions can return multiple values in a single line? Remember, outer variables and handle unlimited arguments effortlessly. Here are 5 hidden secrets to master functions like a pro and write smarter, cleaner Python code today. Don't miss the last secret and the bonus. The first secret is returning multiple values. So you can return multiple values from a function as a tuple. Here I prepare the function and I initialize this variable age to 25. So the next one is simply to return the multiple values. We simply write return as normally, and we can return this variable, or also we can return a value like 12, or we can return a boolean value, or also you can return the string data type, let's say. Now the next one is simply to call that function. So to call that function, you need to know about multiple initialization. So if you don't know it, you can look this video on my channel to know about data type and the variables. Simply we need to say like variable A, variable B, and variable C and variable D. That we need the 4 variables because we return 4 values. And we are going to call that function. So this is my function. Get it? Now this function is going to return 4 values. Age will be assigned to A, 12 will be assigned to B, and 2 assigned to C, and so forth. So let's print this value, and we're gonna see the result, what happened. Now can it print A, B, C, and D. Let's look at this one. Now you look, it returns that values as how it returns. The secret number 2 is default parameter values. You can set default values for parameters. This, let's say, for example, we have the function which is greet. Now this function, the parameter, here we need to define the parameter name, and also we assign the default value. Let's say, for example, is like user. If you didn't define the parameter, automatically it assigns this user as a name of a parameter. Let's say like print, we need to print it like let's say, for example, I need to format this hello. Now we can add the name. Now let's call this function. When we don't add a value, this returns hello and the user. Let's get this. Now you see hello and user. Now let's try to define a parameter here, the argument. Let's write again greet, and we specify some value like John. Now let's try to learn this one. Now you look, if no argument is specified, it automatically assigns that user. If there is argument specified, it assigns that argument to variable. The secret number 3 is args and kwargs. Args allows passing a number of positional arguments, and kwargs any number of keyword arguments. Let's say we have, for example, the function which is show. Now this function is going to receive 2 parameters, which are first is args, and the second one is kwargs with double asterisks. Now this args is going to receive the value in terms of positional arguments, or we can call it tuple, while kwargs is going to receive the arguments in terms of keywords. Let's see this one. Let's try to say let's print args. So now inside of this function, args becomes like a variable. We can say this here, we are going to receive the parameters that are arranged in terms of tuple. Let's say it's like tuple arguments. while we are going to print again kwargs. This kwargs is going to receive the parameter that arranged in terms of keyword, or the key with the value, which is dictionary way. Let's say dictionary arguments. You can say it's a dictionary arguments. Let's get out of this function show, and the remaining one is simply to call this function. Let's call it to show, and the argument which you are going to pass is the argument in form of tuple and the argument in form of variables, and have its initialized value. Let's say, for example, 1 and then 20. We can also pass, for example, a, which is equal to 100, and also we can pass b, which is equal to 200. Now these two values, first two values in terms of tuple is going to be assigned on args, while this second two arguments is going to be assigned on kwargs. Let's try to run this one and we'll see the result. Now you get the first one is the tuple, the second one is dictionary. Secret number 4. Functions are first class citizens. This means functions in Python can be passed as arguments or returned from other functions. Now I prepared these two functions, which is add and operate function, to help you understand this concept very well. Now we have add function, which receives two arguments and return that addition of that arguments. While we have also the function called operate, it receives 3 parameters or arguments and return the function with 2 parameters. Let's explore this very well. Now we start by say print operate. This is the function. This is the function operate. We are going to call this function called operate. We simply pass this function name, which is add. When I hover it with the editor show you that is the function, and we need to pass these 3 arguments to this function called operate. After this is the same like you write, and now this argument func is same like say is equal to add. Now a is equal to 2, while b is equal to 3. You get it? Now it receives like this. Then instead of writing add, while we are calling, we can write func. Instead of writing 2, we can write a. Instead of writing 3, we can write b. Now we can call that function. Now we can return function. Now we automatically call this function called add. Now we pass these 2 parameters. These 2 parameters is a and b. So this 2 parameter is going to be passed a to x, and while b is going to be passed to y. And also remember, a is equal to 2 and b is equal to 3. That's why the result is going to be 5. Let's try to run this one. That is how we can make a function returned, that is enable functional programming patterns. Secret number 5. Nested functions in Python. You can define functions inside the function. Inner functions can remember variable from the outer function. So let's say here we have, for example, the function like outer. Then this function of outer can initialize a variable like 5, and then we can define another function inside this one, which is nested. Let's call this function inner. Then after define this function, we can say return. I can return an express, for example, like 10. Now at this function of outer, we are back in the function of outer. As you see, we skip this indent for the inner function. Now we can return also the inner as the function. Now let's go out of this function of outer. We can simply start to print this function on the screen from the result. So let's say, for example, result is equal to outer. Now you get it. Now we can call this function called the outer. Now when we call this function called the outer, is going to be executed, and you take x initialized it 5, and they automatically return this inner function, which means result is same as like write a inner function. This means the result is same as like inner function. You get it? When you call the result, it's same like calling inner function. Let me write it. Yeah. That's why when we go on print, we will get that value. So let's say print result. Now this is a function. Now I said to write result is same as like you write inner, because of result is equal to outer function. That outer function, it returns inner function. You get it? So let's try to run this. You will get 50. You might be surprised because you didn't see Lambda functions in that 5 tricks. But let me add it as the bonus. So Lambda functions in Python, quicks or one-line anonymous functions. Let's get this deeper. Here I prepared this function called add with 2 parameters, and it returns the addition of that value stored in that variables a plus b. So the Lambda function, the simply what different between that function of Lambda with this add function is simply Lambda we can write it in a single line or single statement. Let's try this one. Let's try to say this is Lambda function. Lambda function. We simply write in terms of one line. Let's say Lambda is equal, this is the value. We can call it, this is the name, this is the name of that variable we will use to call this Lambda function. So simply we need to write Lambda as the keyword, and we automatically write the parameters. Let's say this parameter a and b, we add the colon, then simply we need to take this parameter a and b and we add it to get the returned value a plus b. Now we write the function in a single line. So to call this function is simply write as normally print in order to display it. Then you can use this name to call that function of Lambda. So simply write add and this name as we defined it, and we put the parentheses. You can pass 2 values, let's say for example like 5 and 10. Then let's see the output. Run it, the 5 output is 50. So you can pass 30 and you get the output is 35. In this video, you learned the 5 powerful secrets about functions in Python. Return multiple values from a function easily as a tuple. Use default parameter values to make arguments optional. Use args and kwargs to handle unlimited arguments. Remember, functions are first-class citizens, meaning you can pass them as arguments or return them from other functions. Create nested functions and closure to keep inner function remembering outer variables. Subscribe now for weekly Python tips and tricks to level up your coding skills faster.